call this meeting of the Board of Directors to order, and we'll go ahead and get things started. So, all right, at this point in time, we'll go ahead and open up for public comment. I'll let Barbara get me the list of speakers. Okay. Okay, I'm leaving my phone up here for timer purposes. Why can't I? Give me just a second.
Mr. Chair?
There it is, got it. Yes, absolutely. So when I get done with this list, I'll ask if there's any further. So, okay. Let me see here. I'm going to get this set up real quick here. Bear with me. Okay, so based on the total number of people that we have signed up to speak today, we're going to go ahead and set the speaking time at 2 minutes. And we'll get through this list, and then I'll ask if there's anybody more. So we're going to start off with Mr. E. Ward. Right here, yes. Just come right up here, and then, yeah, I was going to say, can we pull that microphone up close there?
I thought it was yours.
Yeah.
To start?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Good morning, members of the board. I appreciate your time. I'm here speaking regarding Resolution 18-04, giving authority to the Water Protection Advisory Board and the Water Resources Board. I'm in support of requisite review and oversight. Public input must be a central component of all levels of review and oversight. Independent review and analysis or analyses of all data related to potential contaminants in surface and groundwater should also be a tenet of the guidelines, and data must be publicly available. I also urge Mr. MRCOG, if I will use that moniker, to include air quality standards related to the extractive industries. Of particular concern with the oil and gas industry are methane emissions. New Mexico already contains the hottest spot in the country, if not the North American continent, for methane emissions up in the northwest corner of the state. And Albuquerque, as a metropolitan area, is already a heat island and has some issues with regard to that. So I think it is incumbent upon this body and all oversight bodies and advisory bodies to consider those effects as well. I understand today's resolution limits itself to potential water hazards and risks to our drinking supply. But I would also encourage you, if it's within your purview, to consider air quality effects as well. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Okay. Ann Friedman? Oh, I'm sorry, Alan Friedman.
That's me.
I'm sorry, Mr. Friedman, I apologize. My contacts
You're forgiven.
did not set well there. Apologize.
Okay. Chairman Hall and members, my name is Alan Friedman. I live in Placitas, and I've been involved with Sandoval County's efforts to develop an oil and gas ordinance for 3 years. I would say you're wise to charge the Water Resources Board to address the issue of oil and gas ordinance project. As you know, this issue has social, economic, and environmental components, and I might add legal and political ones as well. Sandoval County has an especially complicated set of circumstances because the geology and oil and gas resources vary greatly from From the northwest, the San Juan Basin, to the southeast, the Albuquerque Basin. Half of the land in Sandoval County is owned by tribes and pueblos, and only late in the game did Sandoval County begin to engage the tribes and pueblos, each a sovereign government. As a first suggestion, I would say reach out to the tribes and pueblos, many of which share with us the land in this region. When I looked at the MRCOG membership list and who's here today, tribal and pueblo representation was sparse. And I would say reach out and bring them in to the process. Our tribal and pueblo friends have much to offer. And my second suggestion, and one which probably you are already thinking, is to have the process be open and done in a systematic way. Identify the issues and engage experts to help you address the issues of concern. And up to now, we in Sandoval County have failed to develop a consensus oil and gas ordinance. However, over the past 3 years, we have learned a lot, and we reach out. I'm sure Chairman Heil and citizens in Sandoval County who have worked on this issue a lot will offer to help as we can.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mark LeClaire.
Morning, everybody. My name is Mark LeClaire. I just live right down the street, and I just came today because I'm really concerned. I'm really passionate about climate change. I'm really worried about our future generations. And this air that we're breathing right now is part of our atmosphere. If the Earth was the size of an apple, our atmosphere is thinner than the skin of that apple. And yet it moves all the water around. It keeps the air temperature perfect for us. It protects us from solar radiation. Thinner than the skin. It's a miracle. And it's our moral responsibility to take care of it. Methane from fracking is a real issue. I'm glad someone already brought that up. That methane is 86 times more powerful than carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas. And it's a real threat. Any revenue that we get from fracking, imagine if we have one fire season from like they just had in California, that would just wipe that out. It would just be gone. So I wanted to come because, the federal government is just rolling back regulations. They're leasing more land. It's just like a juggernaut. It's like a gold rush all over again. Well, you guys right here have some power and authority to act in a positive way for our future. So I just want to encourage you like that, to take all these things into consideration. Besides affecting the climate and the air, this air pollution has real health impacts too. And the studies are still coming out. We don't even understand what it does yet. At first there was a few studies, now there's hundreds of studies. So I sent a bunch of emails, I sent an email to Ms. O'Malley with a bunch of links to more information. And I asked her if she could share it. And I just want to encourage you all to take a look at some of these things. Is that my time?
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Next up, Joe Munley.
Good morning. My name is Joe Munley. I live in Albuquerque. I've been attending the Sandoval County ordinance meetings, so I just wanted to speak today and say briefly that a lot was learned there. There's a lot that exists on how to develop an ordinance that would protect the citizens of the Rio Grande Valley already. The air and the water are I was particularly concerned about meeting people who are suffering illnesses and adverse effects from the fracking that's going on. So they were not able to reach a consensus. There was conflict between the economic, social, and environmental issues. Different people have different personalities, different ideologies, and then they have the corresponding scientific studies to match their beliefs. So if the economic pressure is taken off, that the main concern isn't cost to oil and gas industry, you should be able to come up with an ordinance that will protect the citizens, and you'll have to figure out the complex legal questions where the federal and state regulations exist but aren't being followed. There's not enough funding or will to put them into effect. So I just wanted to say that to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Neese?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, my name is Mike Neese. I hope that you have all seen this video documentary, Sacred Land, Sacred Water. It helps to explain the situation regarding at least the water efforts, protection efforts in the Albuquerque Basin. If you haven't seen it, I have a few copies with me and I can hand those out. There are several states who have banned fracking. But they haven't stopped using natural gas or oil products. That narrows the focus on New Mexico. And the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association just 2 weeks ago, in a letter to the editor in the Rio Rancho Observer, said that when they threatened to sue Sandoval County for trying to pass an ordinance, they said that the Albuquerque Basin was an area of their purview, their interest and concern. They're coming our way, and it would be best for us to address this issue before they get here. We don't want a situation similar to like the Curtin spill, where we are trying to remediate damage to our water. It just can't be done properly. We need to get ahead of it and pass laws. So I encourage you to vote yes on this today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ralph Rollins?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members of the board. I'm thankful that I'm here to hear about what's going to go on later on the vote of this resolution. Get the Water Resources Board to look into this matter. I want to say I concur with the statements of all 5 public commenters before me. I listened to them very intently, and I think they all make very good points. I'm in favor of this resolution being passed. The time is very urgent, as just pointed out by Mike Neese. And one of the things that I noticed in reading the resolution all the way through is that I did not see any statement of how urgent this is, nor did I see any timeline for when the findings of the Water Resources Board need to be presented back to Mr. MRCOG. So I would like for you to please consider having some type of a timeline in there that recognizes the urgency of this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Farkash?
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me a few moments to address some concerns you have. My name is Steve Farkash, and I'm a 30-year resident of Rio Rancho. First, let me say that in Rio Rancho, we appear to have a very fine water utility that is doing everything it can to encourage and promote conservation. On the flip side of this, we have a county commission that has for some time been circumventing the concerns of 90,000 residents. The New Mexico Tech study showed that the geology underlying Rio Rancho is extremely fractured and considered a high-risk area for oil and gas extraction. The possibility of contamination of the aquifer, it's very real. That aside, each hydraulic frac well requires millions of gallons of water. A site can have up to 8 wells each. AMREP has leased 55,000 parcels to Thrust Energy in Roswell for this purpose. The commission in Sandoval County seems unconcerned about this threat to the city water resource. The mayor of Bernalillo, Jack Torres, has testified at several meetings against the non-restrictive ordinance, as has Representative Derek Linty. Mayor Hall, I wrote you some time back expressing my concerns about this situation and asked what your views were on it. I heard nothing back. Crickets. In your 2018 campaign finance filings, I saw that you accepted $2,500 from Reform Sandoval County PAC. This PAC is run by current Commissioner and former Chairman Don Chapman. You also received $800 from the Director of this body and current Chairman of the Commission, David Heil. I have to wonder if your silence on this issue is a reflection of your affiliation to power brokers on the County Commission. So today I came all the way down from Rio Rancho to see if I can finally get responses to your views on this most important matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, before we close public comment, we had those folks signed up, and is there anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to address the body.
Please. And just so we can jot your name down.
Mario Atencio, M-A-R-I-O-A-T-E-N-C-I-O.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, representatives. I'm here as the liaison with the Tri-Chapter Council. It is the 3 local chapters of Navajo Nation government, of Ojo Encino councilors in Torreon, Star Lake. They are physically located in the northwest panhandle of Sandoval County. They are coming together as a region to address these types of concerns. So in terms of water, we are planning the 3 chapters for 100 years, and subsurface water resources are incredibly priceless and instrumental in a lot of our planning processes. Just to know that the Navajo Nation has senior reserve water rights, and the Tri-Chapter represents individual Indian Alatis and the Navajo Nation government. And so those senior water rights are very important, and those water rights lie within the Rio Grande River watershed, namely the Rio Preco watershed. So the Tri-Chapter, so we're here to seek a collaborative and meaningful relationship with the Middle Region Council of Governments and State of Minnesota protecting the Tri-Chapter water resources. Currently, and we strongly suggest that an action item of concern includes the Tri-Chapter Council, as we have been in constant discussion with the Bureau of Land Management and those federal oil and gas leasing processes or policies that are coming down directly from Washington, D.C. There are numerous environmental justice concerns, economic concerns, namely that a lot of the royalties that come in the community from those land parcels, the BLM, I don't think they're here today to discuss this with you all, but those affect water resources of the Mid-Region Council of Governments. A lot of times we haven't yet to see them even address a lot of our concerns regarding water resources. They're running roughshod over all of our planning processes, and we've been trying to fight to get collaborative, meaningful consultation, not only with cultural resources, but water resources themselves. And even economically, we don't know where all the money's going. I think the Mid-Region Council of Governments would strongly look into where do those monies go to royalty monies. Half goes to the federal treasury, and half goes to the state of New Mexico general funding. The governments here should see where those monies are, because a lot of times in some places where representatives are from, BLM is part of a large significant landholder. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate this time to this year.
Thank you.
Mr.
Yes.
I didn't use up my full 2 minutes, I just remembered something I wanted to comment on.
Please.
I call it a little chagrined to say that, but the copy of the DVD that Mike Lees held up, Sacred Land, Sacred Water, I gave a copy of that to Steve Glass a couple of months ago, and I believe he's on the Water Resources Board. I think it would be, I watched it a couple times, and it is an extremely informative DVD video that was produced. I would like to encourage this board to make it known to the Water Resources Board that a number of copies have been provided to them and gives them great background information for this study. Thank you very much. And then the final thing would be that I live in Northeast Heights of Albuquerque, and like everyone else in this room really, we all live downstream of what the impacts are of fracking in Sandoval County. Thank you.
No, thank you. And I will say, yes, ma'am. Yes, please. And just to that point, the Water Resource Board meeting, should this body approve to send it there, up to that vote, those will be open to the public as well and be able to get that information, and we would encourage that. So, absolutely. So, and we know that there'll be broad participation in that as well in that discussion. So, yeah, and I'm sorry, can I get your name?
Yeah, Delise Delios. And I just want to thank you, everybody. I am in agreement with everything that has been said up to this point, and I also would just like to add that you probably all know recently that the IPCC report and the 4th National Climate Assessment were released recently, and we are on a very short timeline. And in addition to the problems that fracking creates or can create in terms of the water, absolutely creates in terms of our air quality, the CO2 that is released into the atmosphere is no longer acceptable. We have to keep every drop of oil in the ground. We can no longer allow for this to continue to happen, or we will be facing extinction. Human beings are the only species who are destroying their homes. And if we don't put an urgent stop to it, then we will see our homes being dismantled little by little. In fact, we're right now already seeing that. In the National Climate Assessment, in the section of the report that talks about the Southwest, over and over and over, the threats to our communities because of drought are they're deep, and they will only get worse. We cannot allow for one single drop of our water to be threatened by the fracking and the corruption of that water system. So I urge you to pass this resolution, and not only pass it, but with urgency in moving forward to creating a strong oil and gas ordinance that will benefit everybody in the Middle Rio Grande Valley. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, good morning. My name is Lieutenant Governor Scott Paisan from the Pueblo City. Good morning, board members. Thank you for allowing me to speak this morning. I don't want to take too much time, but I just want to reiterate the importance of the collaboration and communication with the tribes. A lot of good points have been made thus far by your constituents here in the city. So the Pueblo would also support the resolution in terms of the consultation that you guys outlined in your resolution to ensure the Pueblo's concerns and needs are addressed. We do currently have water quality standards already adopted in the Pueblo, and we would like for this board to take that into consideration, likewise with the various cultural and economic issues that also face Indian country. I represent the Pueblo Sandia, but in working and dealing with the ordinance and committees with Sandoval County, our groups have already laid a lot of the foundation down in terms of the scientific and technical work. So hopefully this group can take that into consideration. So The Bubble is prepared to provide their comments that are already in existence, recommendations on behalf of our Bubble. So thank you very much, and happy holidays.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, seeing none, thank you. All right, moving on to the action items. Tab 4, directing the Mid-Region Council of Government Water Resources Board to review and address concerns related to the social, economic, environmental issues associated with oil and gas development throughout the region served by the Mid-Region Council of Governments, to seek input and information from stakeholders, to create guidelines for oil and gas ordinances for use by member governments. This was, it was recommended by the executive board to send this to the full board for consideration before sending this off to the Water Resources Board. So what's before us today is a resolution instructing the Water Resources Board to explore it. And Director Cave.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, this resolution is not exactly like the one that was considered at the exec board. There have been some changes to this that you would have to vote on first. First, we had on lines 17, 74, and 75, we had referred to the creation of a model ordinance. And at the recommendation of the Water Resources Board, they asked that we change that to guidelines. And mainly because we don't expect each government that considers this whole issue would develop their own ordinance. So we would just be providing guidelines rather than a model ordinance. And that was the recommendation they had. In addition, we had, whereas it says we had a new section which starts on lines 43 through 45. It says, whereas Mr. MRCOG serves in an advisory capacity to members and the sole power to adopt proposed plans, ordinances, regulations, or projects remains with the member governmental unit. So we're not trying to force this ordinance on any particular governmental unit. You'll have to decide that for yourselves. And then the last one, under working group, is replaced with technical advisory group on line 66. And so those are the changes that we would ask that you would make to that ordinance. They're already reflected in the resolution that you have in your packet.
Okay, so we'll work through these one at a time. So first, I'm going to go ahead and take a motion to approve the main resolution, and then we'll start with the amendments, and we'll go through them one at a time. So motion to approve the resolution R-18-04.
I move approval. Second.
I have a motion and a second. And with that, I will offer the amendment on, let me see here, let's start with this, to the title on line 17. Okay, there we go. Okay, so item one, which is on line 17, which changes that word to guidelines. Take a motion to approve that amendment.
Approval. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions about that particular amendment? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. The second one was on line 43. The addition of that particular paragraph, lines 43, 44, and 45. To read that back into the record, it reads, whereas Mid-Region Council of Governments serves in an advisory capacity to members and the sole power to adopt proposed plans, ordinances, regulations, and projects remains with the member governmental unit. So that's an additional whereas. I'll take a motion to approve that amendment.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions on this item? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving to the third amendment on line 66, with the words technical advisory group. I'll take a motion to approve that.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions on this item? Hearing none, all in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay, that brings us back to the main motion. So we have the main motion on the floor. Any comments as amended? Yes, Member Stebbins.
Mr. Chairman, so several of the people who come to the comment today have talked about the urgency and a request that we set a time frame for this, and I'd like to just ask Mr. Cave, well, I guess a couple questions. I'm not sure who the chair of this board currently is, and whether there is the possibility, what we could expect in terms of a schedule for completing this work.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Stebbins, we would like to have the first initial meeting with this board and establish timelines at that time. At this point, it's hard to say. I mean, I think that we could say that we want the first report within 6 months or something like that, or within 3 months, and give them that guidance. But nothing's been established at this point. I think they need to get the group together and get the expertise. And there's a lot of information that's available. We're going to get some information from Sandoval County, what they've already gone through. I understand there's a report that was done by Mexico Tech. So there's a lot of initial discussion that has to take place. So putting a timeline, I think, would be difficult at this point.
Yes, Chair and Commissioner Stebbins. Steve Glass is our chair of our Water Resources Board. He was just re-elected to that position. And the resolution directs the Water Resources Board to form a working group and to establish a work plan with a schedule that will be noticed through Mr. Cogg's umbrella. And I do hesitate to set a timeline. The idea, the discussion of the Water Resources Board was that the steering committee, the advisory committee would begin their work if this resolution is approved, of course, and set up a schedule. And we proposed a special meeting of the Water Resources Board in January. They typically meet on a quarterly basis, so they would not meet again until February, and they didn't want to work to May, and they didn't want to wait that long. So they proposed a special meeting that we of course, this resolution is approved here, we'll set that up. The Water Resources Board will come back, and they will put together that steering committee, that advisory committee, and that advisory committee will begin work on a work plan and a schedule. And the purpose of this was for the technical committee to report back to the Water Resources Board and to the board of directors as they work through the process. We'll know a little bit more, I think, the first of next year.
When you say board of directors?
This board, Mr. Cog, board of directors. Yes. Because the Water Resources Board is an advisory board to the board of directors.
Would you, and Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes.
Is it advisable to put some kind of a schedule for reporting back to this board at this point in time?
The Water Resources Board regular schedule will not meet until May, is that correct? Or February, Barbara? Do you remember? It's February? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I think we've established, and we'll go over that in here in a little bit, the new schedule for this board as well. And I think that my commitment to this board is that we will give you an update at each one of those meetings so that you have an idea of what has taken place. And I'll have a representative from this technical committee present so that they can answer any questions.
At each of the Mr. Cog?
Yes.
Full board meetings?
And that was the discussion of the Water Resources Board, that we put on the Water Resources Board agenda an ongoing item that says update from the Technical Advisory Committee. So that would be reason to do that for the COG board.
And again, one last question.
Yes.
So during the discussion about a schedule, was there the anticipation that there would be more meetings, that the schedule would be changed from the quarterly meetings that currently take place?
No, the Water Resources Board schedule is set for the year at a quarterly basis. Now, the advisory committee, technical advisory committee, will meet on a regular basis, and it will determine, what the schedule is like.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it would be really helpful if we did have certainly at the next board meeting, a report about what that schedule is, and maybe some kind of estimated date of completion. Thank you.
Yes.
Well,
Member Gibson.
if I may, and I'm sorry, this should have been clear to me, but it wasn't. Will the meetings, are the meetings, the schedule for the meetings on the website so that people are interested in attending and maybe may want to take make a public comment? Or
Yeah, the Chair and Councilor Gibson, we want to follow the Open Meetings Act for the advisory committee. So the Water Resources Board is noticed, the agenda is posted, the schedule is posted. The technical committee will follow the Open Meetings Act on how we will adopt I anticipate we will adopt a regular meeting once we get that committee set up so that we can have that posted, and then we will post the notice of the meeting on the COG website.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I think Member O'Malley had called for the floor, and then we'll move to Member High.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to echo the concerns, and I'm glad that we were talking about the schedule to move forward. We just don't want months and months to go by, essentially, so that we get the message to the Water Resources Board that time is of the essence, that we really want. I mean, there's continued pressures to the industry, and not unusual. So I think what we want to get to is, as people have mentioned before, is that we don't want to, in terms of if we end up in some way contaminating the groundwater, remediation, we use that term pretty loosely, it's not very effective, and we found out that that's the case with the Kirtland spill. We're doing everything we can avoid to get that, to avoid putting that into the system. So it's not only ineffective, but it's very harmful to the community. So, and realizing that there is a balance here, because of course many of us use those resources, gas and oil, in our daily functions. And if we all of a sudden didn't have those, we'd be screaming bloody murder probably. So we have to understand that as well, but to do it in such a way that does not cause the kind of harm that's occurring actually all over the state, where it's where we have this devastation, where people are fracking or looking for resources, and then they just take off. And you can actually see some of these sites from the satellite. It's just abandonment of a site, no cleanup, make the money and leave. So we just can't have that. And I think that folks in our community, I don't think it's one of those the sky is falling kind of attitude, but it is. We have to pay attention, and we have to look at our future, and we have to be concerned about our health and welfare. So that said, I agree with the urgency of trying to get something done sooner than later. Thank you.
Member Heil, and then we'll go to Member Clinton.
I guess I want to elaborate on Dewey Cave's comments about the information that's available from the efforts for Sandoval County. We have, of course, the study and supplementals that the county paid for with New Mexico Tech. We have a considerable contribution from the citizens of Sandoval County and their input in both the two elements of the citizen working group and the efforts that they put forth and out meeting with citizens throughout the community. Also, many visits with the tribal governments within Sandoval County, and I would make a key point here for this Water Resource Board to look to those resources, as I believe they could help them move this process along more timely by being able to look at where we've been for the past couple of years and what we learned and what we didn't achieve. Actually, the ordinance for Sandoval County did not pass. It actually did not get a second to pass. So, and I believe the reason for that was that there were, it was almost from no matter what side you talked to with regard to what was developed. The citizens didn't like it, the tribes didn't like it, Oil and gas industry didn't like it, so we put a lot of effort in 2 years, so just understand it. You've got a real task in front of you in terms of the Water Resource Board.
Thank you. Member Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just think, just in recent developments, I think it's remarkable that the outgoing state land commissioner came out so strongly about protections of these sites where drilling is occurring and expressing his concern sort of on the way out the door, better late than never, I suppose. But that, and I think that's really something that inclines me to support this effort. But also the discussions with the Pueblos. And I was just happened to be at some of those discussions of the Pueblo Environmental Subcommittee, I believe it's called. And that was rather enlightening. And of course, this organization is a great convener for groups like, whether they're members or not, of this board, to track this issue and everything that's involved with it. So I do support the resolution, and I appreciate those who brought it forward.
Thank you. Any further comments on the resolution? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. So all those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you.